What's up, beautiful? Welcome to Fuzzo Media Productions. I'm your host, Miss Fuzzo in the building. Welcome to the channel. If you are new, please subscribe. Make sure you like the video if you like it, and leave us a comment if you like the conversation. I'm here to introduce you to today's episode that was shot 3 years ago today. We basically had a I quit my job episode on our last episode and had a discussion about all the things I was planning on doing after I quit my job, and I actually had a couple of emails ask me for a follow-up video on what happened after I quit my job, what were the lessons that I learned, and all of that fun stuff. So today's video is going to be a month after I had quit my job. Those were some of the reflections I was having. What did I learn? What did I wish I'd done better? It had given me a little bit more time to reflect on what had happened. And actually, a week later, we ended up being in a global pandemic that put everything on standstill and literally changed the way that we exist in the world. So, hi, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will see you on the flip side. So, your girl quit her job. Yeah, I'm officially unemployed.
3, 2, 1.
What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to Fuzzo Productions. My name is Miss Fuzzo, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. So today I want to talk to you guys about how I quit my job, the lessons I've learned from quitting my job and transitioning into being self-employed. So in December of last year, 2019, I just felt in my heart that something wasn't adding up, something just wasn't clicking in my spirit, and I just felt like I needed to quit my job. And like, obviously I've been thinking about like running my business and thinking about like what's stopping me from achieving the business goals I want to achieve and all of that fun stuff. Like, if you know me and you've been following my stuff for a while, you know that I'm really involved, like in my school, in my community. Like, I'm everywhere. I am super duper involved. Like, I'm vice president of the Trend International Students Association. I'm a board member of the Community Race Relations Committee. I dabble in a bunch of different committees on campus and off campus. But to sum it up, I'm really busy, like all the time. And then add that I have a job that I was doing part-time and trying to run a business successfully as well part-time. It was getting to a point where it was like super overwhelming, and I was realizing that the thing that was essentially becoming the back burner was my business. And every year I'd be like, I want to be more consistent, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, but I just couldn't. Like, I physically just did not have the time or the resources to do everything I wanted to do. And so when I started like really thinking about the things in my life that I didn't really see as being part of my future, I realized that one of the main things that I needed to figure out was whether I was going to continue to work or I was going to start doing my business as a full-time gig. So obviously, like, if you don't know, I was working as a PSW, and essentially a PSW is like a support worker. I was working with kids with disabilities. I loved it so much. I love my kids so much. My job was awesome. My pay was above minimum wage. Like, it was just everything I could want in a job, except essentially it just got to a point, yeah, where I realized I don't think I want to be a PSW for the rest of my life. Obviously I knew that when I got into the job. It was just supposed to be a temporary thing, but once I started getting like raises and getting like acknowledged at work, I kind of stopped looking at it as a part-time thing. I started looking at it as like a future career. But when I was setting my goals, I realized that's not what I want to do. So why do I continue to do it? And I think what made the decision like even easier was the fact that my schedule was just all over the place. Like one day you'd have a schedule that you were following, and then the next day you get to work and be told like, well, we changed the schedule on you, we forgot to tell you, sorry. And I just, with the way my schedule is set up here, I will insert a clip of what my calendar looks like every month. Okay, like I literally I can't not have structure. And so the decision was made by like January 1st. I decided, I'd written my resignation letter, and I've essentially sent it and gave them my 2 months notice. But in my brain, I don't think I'd fully like deeped that I was actually leaving. So I don't know if this was pettiness on my manager's end, or this was just God working in mysterious ways. But we get a 6-week calendar, like to give us like an advance notice of when we're gonna work for the next month. And when the schedule at the end of January came out, my manager had written all the way through the calendar. Well, I just felt like I had been disrespected, and so out of pettiness I decided to leave the job early. So that's lesson number 1. Don't be petty, make a plan. I decided that I was going to resign 2 months in advance, and now that would allow me to essentially save up enough money to finish up my sink fund and have rent for my first and last, because I want to move apartments, and essentially rent for the rest of the months until I leave. But because I decided I wanted to be petty and leave early, I actually only had rent for the first and last for the new apartment and 1 month of rent and expenses and everything else. Guys, don't do what I did. If you're gonna quit your job, have a sink fund that can at least support you for like 3 months. Obviously, and in the moment, I'm glad I just left, because I know if I had stayed, I potentially would have just withdrawn my resignation. But I'm almost glad that he did behave in that way, because it really pushed me to leave the nest and go out there and do my own thing. But okay, so the next tip is have things organized for when you leave, right? So I was really lucky that a friend of mine was hosting an event where he had like a fashion show, and he called me and he's like, hey, do you want to be part of the fashion show? And I was like, raw, for sure, I want to be part of the fashion show. So I went to Hamilton, we had the fashion show. That was my first week of being self-employed. So I went to Hamilton, I had a fashion show. I didn't sell anything because I legitimately didn't even bring things to like allow me to sell anything. And that's one thing I wish I would have done better. I wish if I had decided to go to this fashion show, I should have bought all the things I needed to make sales. But it's fine, I learned from that, because on the following Monday, I actually ended up having a marketplace with the Trend African Caribbean Students Association, which was really, really good. I sold a couple of things, but in that, I actually got my third lesson, which is learn how to price your services right. So for me, because I was doing it before as a hobby, I was pricing it like a hobby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have really good quality things. I'm not even gonna lie, bruv. I have some really, really good quality things, but I was literally like selling them for pocket change. And I remember one of the girls who was there, who had her own company that was selling hair products, asked me, how much did you sell that jacket for? I was like, yeah, I sold it for 20 bucks. And she's like, you realize Walmart doesn't even sell jackets at 20 bucks. I was like, yeah, I know, I'm just doing it as a hobby, and I know student pricing, da da da. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. Think of the expenses, your electricity, the material you used cost more than what you just sold that thing for. Does that make sense? So that's lesson number 3. Before you go out and you sell your product, analyze the quality and price based on that quality. Obviously, know who your demographic is and work with your pricing based on that demographic. Pricing is so important. You need to hit that like middle point where It's not too cheap that people think your stuff is cheap, and it's not too expensive where people who you're marketing to can't afford. You need to find a nice little middle ground where everything meets and just works together. What I wish someone would have told me before I quit was actually, how do I even sell? Like, beforehand everything was selling itself, and honestly, if I made like $100 every month, it was fine. But this is now like my full-time gig. It made me really think about how do you sell, and not just sell the clothing, but sell the brand and the idea of the brand. As much as I want to cater to the needs that I want, that might not necessarily be the thing that's gonna actually bring clients into my business. So if I want to bring clients into my business, I need to know who they are. I need to figure out what they like, where do they eat, where do they go out, and figure out a product based around that. Obviously, I preach multiple streams of income to everybody, but when you leave your job and you don't have a backup plan, you realize that multiple streams of income will save your butt. Not just multiple streams of income like selling this and selling that and selling this and selling that. Actually, the thing that will make you money like immediately are things that are necessities for people. Like, for example, things like bookkeeping. I'm really good at bookkeeping, and I can do that for like $60 an hour, and it doesn't take a lot of time. I can do that on the side. I can do it when I'm like in the evening or early morning. Like, there's so many things that are needs and necessities right now that are services that people need that you can be doing as a side hustle to fund the big hustle. A tip with that is that don't then focus so much on the side hustles that you completely neglect your main business, because that's the thing that's really gonna make you money in the future. So keep a balance, find a balance in between. The last thing, I think I had really high expectations. Like, after leaving my job, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this. But realistically speaking, like, the amount of time and effort you spend in your business is kind of how much you reap. And I kept saying to people, oh, I'm unemployed and unemployed, and unfortunately, because I kept saying I'm unemployed, I started moving like someone who was unemployed. Like, people would ask me like, what's your availability, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm available all the time because I'm unemployed. And I wasn't actually allocating that time that I had essentially left my job for things that had to do with my business. Even today, like, I've promised myself every Friday I'm going to be posting a video. Today I had to sit down and plan, like, what kind of content am I producing? Why am I producing it? Who is it going to help? Is it actually helpful? Because I don't want to just produce content for the sake of producing it. But that's time I would have been working for someone else, and that's time that I now have to actually actively allocate for things that have to do with my business and my companies. So I really hope you guys learned something from this video. I've gotten a lot of people who are asking me why I left my job and kind of what happened post leaving my job, and I hope this video managed to answer all your questions. And if you've reached this part of the video and you still haven't subscribed or liked the video, what is you even doing? What are you doing? Okay, like the video, subscribe, and share it if you think it's informative. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Bye.